Welcome back to Tabletop Titans for another Titan Tactics. Today we're going to be taking a look at the balanced data slate that just dropped today. This is the January 2024 balanced data slate. It's a big deal because it really is the first major shift in the game beyond the initial patching, and we're going to see a number of sweeping changes across different armies that help balance out top to bottom and bring everyone towards the middle. I'm going to be taking a look at not only the balanced data slate, but also the new points that come with the associated armies, as it's really important to have that discussion. If you're interested in following this content, please hit that like, subscribe, and consider becoming a member. Let's take a look. A is for Adeptus Sorus. We're going to be covering the sisters first. Their only balanced data slate change has to do with the Triumph of St. Catherine. This is specifically changing the simulacrum of the Evan Chalice. This is the aura that allows you to select a unit within 6 inches and perform any number of miracles. This is particularly calling out things like Retributors with Dialogus that can take any number of miracle dice and turn them into 6s. It's going to tone it down to limiting it to 2. Points-wise, many of these factions you're going to see are going to have a consistent trend. If you see a lot of a certain unit in events, you're going to be getting points increases, and if you don't see them much, well, there's likely they're going to be decreases. So kicking it off, first we have the points increases for sisters include Arcoflagellants, the Exorcist, and Morven Val. Decreases, we have the Dominions, Paragon Warsuits themselves, Repentia, Retributors, and Zephyrim. Overall, I agree with the internal balancing that they have here. I question only things like the Exorcist, but again, indirect fire is extremely strong, and we'll see what the Sisters players can do with it. Custodes players rejoice because Games Workshop is making up for the sins of the past. Their 4+ Feel No Pain now does work against not only mortal wounds, but also devastating wounds. I'm pretty sure this was an intentional nerf the first time around, but now they are attempting to rework the balance in light of some unfortunate showings. Points-wise, we're not seeing any increases, which makes also sense, and we have a number of decreases. A lot of their mainstay units, particularly infantry, are getting reduced. We have, of course, the Alaris Terminators, the Standard Guardians, and the Elite Wardens all seeing points reductions, along with the Captain on Dawn Eagle jet bike and the bikes themselves, the Virtus Praetors. And I think we'll be moving in the right direction for Custodes. Well, the Eldari just continue to have absolutely incredible showings throughout 10th edition, and we have, what is this, our second, third, fourth nerf for Eldari? Let's see if this will be enough this time around. Starting off, the Fate dice pool that allows you to roll pre-game dice and set them is going to be reduced down from 12 to 6, halving the amount you get, which should be a pretty dang big deal. We also have the enhancement Fate's Messenger that only allows you to modify a roll for the bearer themselves. It means you can't put them in a squad and use it on some extremely powerful weapon. And Phantasm, the stratagem that allows the Eldar player to move a unit at the end of their opponent's movement phase, previously was made to be infantry only, so you couldn't use it on things like Wraith Knights and vehicles, is now also only a D6-inch move, so it is much diminished here. The Night Spinner is going to take a number of hits here. They now no longer prevent advance. Instead, it's just a flat -2 to move, -2 to advance, and -2 to charge. Still very powerful. Probably one of the biggest changes is the adjustment to the Incarn, who is an incredible toolkit for many Eldari players, and the change is the fact that you can only teleport them in your own turn. This is a massive deal because previously one of the best tactics to use with her is to, of course, teleport her to one of your units when your opponent is shooting them or charging them, and in the following turn you'll be positioned to make the kill. Massive nerf here. The Wraithguard have had a number of nerfs already, and of course they're continuing to do so here. They currently have an ability where they can shoot when someone shoots them, and now it is changed to only be able to shoot back at the unit that shot them. This one makes sense. I'm really not sure why they didn't do this earlier. Points-wise, not too many because most of the changes here were rules. We, of course, didn't see any points decreases because it's Eldar, but we did see 2 units increase in points. This is the Night Spinners and the Wraithguard, 2 of the biggest offenders in the list. Let's see if this is going to be enough this time around. The Astra Militarum see just a couple changes. The main one comes in the form of Voice of Command Army rule. You can now issue commands not only in your command phase, but you can also do it at the end of a phase in which you disembark from a transport or enter the battlefield. This obviously is going to give a bit more flexibility and clarifies a couple things. Points-wise, we're only going to see an increase on the Manticore and literally nothing else. That's it for Guard. The Blood Angels have been doing much better of late, seeing a number of changes through the Space Marines Codex, as well as the meta shifting around them. We just see one small bump. Now they're going to be getting +2 strength in the charge, up from 1. Now for the Chaos Demons, everybody buckle up because this is getting very weird. In the balanced data slate, they've changed the Demonic Pact rule. They've added an additional paragraph whereby you cannot have more non-battle line units of a certain god than you have of battle line of that god. What this means is, yes, if you want to have 2 Keepers of Secrets, you do need to have 2 units of Demonettes. But this is just all non-battle line. If you want to have a Herald and a Keeper of Secrets, you also have to have 2 Demonettes. This is a big, sweeping change. I'm not the biggest fan, but I'm really curious to see what we can do with it, folks. Points-wise, we are seeing 2 increases, which aren't super surprising. Nurglings and Blue Scribes, 2 mainstays in tournaments, but we are seeing an onslaught of points decreases. I'm not going to list them all, you can see them right here, just across the board, massive drops on not only Battleline, but things like Greater Demons and other characters. Again, this is a big and unexpected change for Chaos Demons. I guess pushing them away from these Greater Demons is the main thing. I'm just not sure why they made it apply to all Battleline units. Let me know what you think. The last balanced data slate resurrected the Death Guard, giving them some amazing new abilities for their core detachment as well as points reductions. Here we see just a couple tweaks. The Biologist free grenade strat is now once per shooting phase instead of once per game, which is fantastic. Points-wise, you are seeing the Plague Marines increase in points because we kind of see them everywhere, but we are seeing some decreases on interesting units such as Death Shroud Terminators, the Fed to Bloat Drone, the Lord of Virulence, and Typhus himself. I think all these units are already not bad, and they're going to be very happy to see these reductions. The Drukhari. How the mighty have fallen. They've really struggled in 10th edition, and here we see a number of changes to help bring them up to speed, as well as pushing them towards melee. First of all, Power from Pain not only grants the full rerolls to hit when in use, but also grants a +1 AP in melee. In a similar vein, we also have the ability for Archons to join Incubi once again. I love this, and I'm super excited to try a unit of Incubi powered up, getting full hit and wound rerolls with +1 AP. We of course did get an entire new detachments for the Drukhari. We might do a full video on that, but we certainly have a battle report coming out today, so check that out. And points wise, we see 1 increase in the form of the Void Raven Bomber, but we have a number of points drops. The Razhar, the Master of Blades, Grotesques, Hellions, Incubi, Raiders, Reavers, Succubus, Talos, and Venoms, all going down in points. These are great because they're honestly mainstays to the army, and seeing reductions on a number of them is really going to add up over the course of list. Again, really excited for the new detachment, the new rules, and the new points. Drukhari players, where are you at? What are you thinking? The Grey Knights, again, one of the factions suffering the most in 10th edition, see just a couple changes to stats, and frankly, it's not in the way you'd hoped. We have the Heavy Side Cannon that now ignores cover. We have the Nemesis Demon Hammer that has weapon skill 3+, and the Nemesis Greatsword has weapon 2+ on both of its profiles. Points-wise, we don't have any increases, which is good, but the only decrease we're seeing is on the Brotherhood Librarian. Yeah, that one that you kind of are spamming out. Honestly, pretty disappointing changes on the Grey Knights. Maybe there's something I'm missing here, but I'm really not feeling the love. The question we're all wondering going into the balanced data slate for Space Wolves is, are they going to escape from the shackles of the Stormlance Assault Force, or are they going to be stuck with it? Well, they did improve it just ever so slightly. The sagas can now be selected and triggered once per player turn rather than round, so that is an improvement, but honestly, I don't think it's nearly enough. It would have been so easy to fix this. Points-wise though, of course, no changes. Last of all, for armies getting data slate changes, we have the World Leaders, who have been going on an absolute rampage lately. Well, I've got bad news for you. It's a number of things bringing you back down to earth. First of all, the Berserker Glaive is only going to be giving a flat +1 attack and +1 damage. The favorite of Khorne enhancement that allowed you to reroll your blood dice every single turn is now going to be only once per game. And finally, the Demon Prince on foot is going to only grant a 5+ invulnerable save unless you had an invulnerable save already. This last one I didn't see taken as often, but it is a powerful ability, so it's interesting that they went after it. Points-wise, we see a number of key World Eaters units increasing in cost. We have the 8-bound and Exalted 8-bound alike, and we also have Karn the Betrayer, which is interesting, along with the Master of Executions. On the decrease side, we have 2 units that are pack some shooting punch, the Lord of Skulls, and of course the World Eater's Forge Fiend. Question is, between the increase in cost of Brigands and the decrease in these costs of units, will we see World Eaters bringing their own shooting to bear? The Chaos Space Marines, arguably one of the best armies in the game right now, took a number of hits in both the data slate changes as well as the Munitorum points. Let's take a look at the slate first, starting off with the fact that if you want to embark a unit into a transport, they must both have the same mark. Checks out, makes sense. Next up, the Dark Obscuration stratagem that effectively grants Lonoff now makes the unit untargetable beyond 18 inches rather than 12. Similarly, the Chaos Undivided strat that would grant full rerolls hit and wound now only grants rerolls to wounds. And of course, the Accursed Cultists have finally been nerfed. Their OC has been changed down to 1 from 2, as well as the fact that you can only resurrect their models in your turn rather than both players' turns. Big deals there, but all logical changes. Points-wise, we see similar changes to things like the Accursed Cultists, the Chaos Lords that go with their Chosen, the Dark Communes, of course, the Forge Fiends and Obliterators of the world. Warp Talons is an interesting increase there, and lastly, of course, the Eye of Tzeentch enhancement. The only decrease in points that we saw is the long forlorn Lord of Skulls. Harsh changes, but I think all fair. That's it for factions that saw balanced data slate changes, but I still want to talk about factions that had their points adjusted. Next up, we have the Agents of the Imperium, which was very interesting because there were no changes. I was shocked to see the Calidus Assassin at the very least not go up in points. For the Black Templars, we see a few of the key units that have been winning events, such as Grimaldus, Crusaders, and Helbricht. I still think it's going to be quite a strong list and still going to do a good job of playing the game, but they are going to be double hit by some of the Space Marine units we'll talk about soon. On the Chaos Knight side, we did allude to this earlier. We do have the War Dog Brigands going up in points. These units were just absurdly strong, and going down in points, a number of units, including the Abominant, the Desecrator, the Despoiler, the Tyrant, the Executioner, and all of their Forge World variants. These are great changes, and hopefully we see a few of these other units played. For the Death Watch, we actually had no changes here, so that's interesting. And for the Gene Stealer cults, the only change was the pure strain Gene Stealers going down in points. Moving along to the Imperial Knights, we have no points increases because they've been in quite a tough position lately. Instead, everything other than the Warglaive, the Gallant, the Atropos, and the enhancements got cheaper. So lots of reductions there for you Knight players. Now this next one, of course, is going to be a bit contentious, the Necrons. Notice they were conspicuously missing from the balanced data slate changes. They have nothing here as well, no points. This is in all likelihood due to the fact that it is a newer book. We saw the same thing happen with AdMech, and so I can expect that in the next balanced data slate or in a patch in the coming couple of months that we'll see something that might bring them down to heel. It's a bit early days, but given the fact that they have a good win rate and they won the LVO, I think we should keep an eye on these metal robots. Everybody's favorite poster boys, the Space Marines, saw a few changes. Again, following that trend, if you saw them in tournament lists, they're going up, and if you didn't, they went down. Aggressors, Centurion Devastators, Inceptors, Redemptors, Scouts, and the Whirlwind all increased in points, while basically all the Intercessor variants, along with Rebute Guilliman, Stern Guard, and the Outriders, which are really just Intercessors on bikes. For the Tau, no changes other than points, so we have the Crisis suits that went up. They're still very popular in these lists. And down in points, we saw the Crisis Commander, the Enforcer Commander, the Riptides down to a tantalizing 165, and the Vespid Stingwings. Thousand Suns didn't see any changes at all, so make of that what you will. And the Tyranids finally have a few points increases, including the Death Leaper, Gargoyles, Neurolictor, and Pyovores, all very popular units. And units that got cheaper included the Brood Lord, Gene Stealers, the Norns, the Screamer Killer, Toxicrene, Trigon, and Tyrannofex. The Orcs have been consistently doing well since 10th edition dropped, and while they didn't see any balanced data slate changes, they did see a few targeted points adjustments. First off, some of the most popular and powerful Orc units, such as the Knobs, the Squighog Boys, and the Trucks, all saw some moderate increases, and a number of the units that you just never see on the table, including things like the Battle Wagon, the Buggies, and the Rigs, all saw decreases in points. Here's to seeing a bit more variety in this codex that really suffers from internal balance. Overall, most of these points make sense. There's a couple of shocking things, and then there's some that are missing. But of course, the Adeptus Mechanicus also didn't see any changes, so worth noting once again that I expect something to change in the coming months. Well, with 2 out of the 3 top armies getting hit with the nerf bat, I do kind of expect Necrons to be king, so we'll see if that prediction holds true. But overall, I'm very excited for what Warhammer holds in the future. Let me know, of course, in the comments if you agree or disagree with on some of the decisions that they've made here. What are you hoping for, and what are you excited for moving forward? And of course, as always, if you want more of this content, please like, subscribe, and consider becoming a member to get access to even more of our content. I'll catch y'all next time on the tabletop. Bye!